Roses, hearts, and chocolate, all symbols of the most romantic day of the year. In fact, this is the very first Valentine my dad gave to my mother 55 years ago. But you know, you don't have to wait until that one special day to show that special someone in your life how much you love them by giving them a nice romantic meal. Today's menu you can use any time of the year. We're gonna start off with a pan-seared salmon, and then we're gonna bake it in a wonderful herb wine sauce. Then to go along with it, I'm gonna be making a nutty, buttery orzo pasta along with some lemony sauteed asparagus. And we can't forget dessert, and no romantic meal is complete without a little chocolate. So I'm gonna be making some cute little red velvet heart-shaped cookies, especially for my sweetie, and a sinfully rich chocolate martini. So join me for a romantic rendezvous meal on today's Tasty Traditions. Hi everyone, welcome to our romantic rendezvous meal that we're having today. I am just preparing some of the herbs that we're going to need for our first dish, and that is our delicious salmon. Now what I have done first, in my saute pan, I cooked about a half a pack of bacon to get all that good bacon drippings, and that's what we're going to sear our salmon in. So I've got it on a pretty good heat here, on about a medium heat. You don't want it too hot. As soon as you take that bacon out, it's going to be really, really hot. So I've let it cool down and kind of brought it back up again. Over here I have 4 salmon fillets, and I'm just going to go ahead, and I've already washed and patted dried them, and I'm just going to lift them up. I'm going to go ahead and place this into my pan. Oops, see, you can hear it sizzling already. And we're not going to cook them totally through. We just want to get them nicely browned on either side, because then we will put them in our casserole dish and bake it in the oven. One more here. Let me get this one. If they all fit in my pan. Like I said, we'll just let those sit for just a minute, and that bacon is going to give it such a delicious flavor. Now right here on my chopping board, I've got some of my favorite herbs that I like to cook with, and that is basil, some oregano, and some thyme. And I'm just going to kind of chop it up finely here, and I'm going to mix it in this saucepan, because over there I have melted 6 tablespoons of butter. So that's going to help to complete our sauce. Maybe chop up my basil here. And it can be as fine chopped or as, you know, as little as you want. And if you want to use dried herbs, you can. You just don't want to use as much, because remember, dried herbs are a lot stronger than the fresh herbs. Let me check on my salmon and see if I need to flip it, which I do. Now I have my oven already preheated to 400 degrees, because that's what we're going to bake it on. And I have 1 garlic clove, and I know what you're thinking. This is a romantic meal. We don't want to have garlic, but it's just a little bit, and trust me, you won't taste it that much, just for flavor. Okay, so we've got all our herbs and our garlic chopped up. My butter is melted, so I'm going to bring that back up to a little bit of a heat. Let's see how our salmon's doing. That looks good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my salmon into this casserole dish. Okay, let me clear the decks here. In fact, let me just go ahead and put my herbs into my saucepan. I'll bring it over here so you can see. I'm just going to dump it all in there. The garlic, the basil, the thyme. And you're just going to let that cook for, about 3 minutes or so. Okay. Now, it's much easier to see if I bring it over to you. Let's go ahead and take our lovely fillets. Just keep them in this pan. And one more. Okay. Now, you're saying, what are you going to do with all that stuff there in your pan? Well, back on the heat it goes. And in this measuring cup, I have a half a cup of dry white wine, and I'm gonna just pour a little bit into the pan to deglaze it. And all that means is it's gonna bring up all those juicy tidbits from the bacon and the salmon and get it off of the pan. Just kind of stir it all together, and you'll see that it's lifting up off of the saucepan. Then we're gonna pour that over our salmon. Yummy. And if you've got little bits of bacon in there, that's okay too. In fact, if you wanted to leave more bacon in your pan, you could. Okay, that looks good. Let's take it over here. You know, you hear, all these recipes about deglazing and all this kind of stuff, and it seems so complicated, but it's really not. It's just really not. Okay. See, we poured all that out. Turn my heat off. And I'm gonna let that sit for just a minute. Check on my butter and herb sauce here. That's good. Now, I have more white wine, so I'm gonna go ahead and pour that in there. And I have 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and I'm gonna go ahead and pour that in as well. Give it another stir. And we're gonna pour this over our salmon as well. See all those pretty herbs in there. Oh, this is gonna be so good. Okay, get our garlic in there. All right. Now, all you do is pop this in a 400-degree oven, and we're gonna let it cook for about 10 to 12 minutes until the fish flakes and it's cooked thoroughly right through, and you're gonna have one delicious salmon dinner for your romantic meal. Let's put that in there. Now don't go anywhere because we have to make our lovely side dishes to go with our salmon, so we're gonna do that when we come back.
To find out more about Tasty Traditions and to get all the great recipes, visit our website at tastytraditions.tv.
Well, if you're just joining us, we are making a meal for a romantic rendezvous, a meal that you can make really any time of the year, not just on that special love day that comes once a year. I wanted to show you before we start though, our lovely salmon. I took it out of the oven and it's still nice and warm, and I'm gonna look see how pretty it is inside. It's all cooked. And of course, I need to take a bite. That is so, so good. I hope that you will try this recipe, but I don't have time to sit and eat this. I've got to finish my meal, so let me put that aside. But what I wanted to make now are the side dishes that go along with our salmon. And the good thing about all the recipes today is that you use a lot of the same ingredients. So it's, it doesn't take a lot of time in preparation, so that's really good. We're gonna be making some orzo pasta, and I have some dry right here in this bowl that I wanna show you, because maybe some of you've never made orzo before. And to be honest with you, I had never either. And the first time I made it, I was just like, well, I know it's pasta, so I'll put a little butter, maybe a little salt and pepper in there, but there's just so many things you can put in the orzo to liven it up and give it some flavor. So I love a little crunch in my food. So I tried some almonds, didn't like those as well, so I tried pine nuts, and that's what we're gonna be using today, are our pine nuts. So I have 2 cups boiling on the stove right now. You can hear it boiling away over there, and it only takes about 6 to 7 minutes to cook your orzo. So we're gonna get to that in a minute as well. But let's move on to our asparagus. Now I have about 1 pound of asparagus right here on the chopping block. And I wanted to show you, if some of you have never cooked asparagus before, they always tell you those woody stems on the end, you really shouldn't eat those. And they're just really tough and not that good. And it's really easy because when you bend the asparagus like this, wherever it pops, that's the part that you want to throw away. Or some people use them in, broths and things like that. But just wanted to show you how easy that was. So I've already cleaned and washed all of my asparagus. And in my saucepan over here, I've melted about 3 tablespoons of butter. And I'm gonna add to that some more dry white wine like we used in our salmon. And a tablespoon of lemon. And that is going to be our broth to saute our asparagus. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there. And asparagus won't take long to cook. You don't want to get it too mushy. Still wants to be a pretty bright green. So I'm going to let that cook, bring it up to about a medium heat. And I'm just gonna forget about it for now. And now I believe our orzo is ready. Let me just check that. Oh yeah. And I'm gonna go and drain it in a colander in the sink. Okay, I have drained my orzo, so it's still nice and hot. And I've got a lovely little bowl here, so if I can get this all through, you can see it. Now, to add to our orzo, I'm gonna put in about 3 tablespoons of butter. And we'll go ahead and pour my orzo, let me get my spatula, into the bowl. And the heat from the orzo will help melt that butter, but it's always a good idea to have your butter at room temperature so it's nice and soft anyway. Okay, now we're going to make it even creamier with some olive oil. So a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, 1/2 cup of our pine nuts, and to really give it a kick, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. And I'm telling you, the flavor of this is so, so good. And if you want to add some more garnishment to it, you could put some flat leaf parsley, chop up a little bit of that and sprinkle on top if you wanted to. It's really up to you. Taste it, see if it needs a little salt, maybe a little bit of fresh ground pepper. It's always a good idea. But the salt, I like to taste it first though, because maybe not all of your guests can have salt or would like some. All right, that's all there is to making this delicious orzo, and it is so, so good. In fact, I think I need to have a bite of that too. Give me a fork. It's so buttery and creamy, and the little crunch from the pine nuts. It's great. Now, our asparagus is cooking nicely. Like I said, it's not gonna take long. You can throw a little salt and pepper on it as well, or just leave it plain. Those need to cook maybe 2 more minutes, but you can see they're still nice and bright green. So I'm gonna finish up with my asparagus, but when we come back, we're gonna make the desserts. Oh, it's gonna be so good, so don't go anywhere.
Tasty Traditions is produced by Faro Media. To learn more about this show and all of our great programming, visit our website at faromedia.net.
Well, now it's time for my favorite part of the show, and that is dessert time. And for our dessert today, we're going to be making these cute little red velvet cookies, and they're so, so easy, which makes them even better. Now, my husband loves red velvet cake, and that's a popular cake here in the South. And at some point in the future, I'm sure I'll be making a red velvet cake for you from scratch, but we're going to go the easy route today. And I just want to show you my little cookie. And now, let me show you how easy it is to do this. I have a box cake mix, red velvet cake mix. Put that into your mixer. Then you're going to add only 1/3 cup of vegetable oil and 2 eggs. Now, normally with a cake batter, you know, you add water and it's a lot runnier. But this is going to make a very thick batter, like a cookie dough. See, that's all it is, just those 3 ingredients. Now, let's turn our mixer on, and it really doesn't take long at all to mix this up. Okay, in no time at all, you're going to have cookie dough batter. Let me get this off. You can see how thick it is already. Now it will be a little bit sticky, so we're gonna have to put something down on our surface to keep the dough from sticking. And I have just the thing. Let me go throw this in the sink. Normally I would put flour down, but because these cookies are so dark and sometimes the flour can stick and we don't want that, I'm gonna use cocoa. Since red velvet cake and cookies are really just chocolate and they're colored red. So it's okay to use some cocoa. Let me get my spatula here, get a little bit more out here. This part might be a little bit messy. Okay, that's good. Got my rolling pin. You just want to put a little bit of it on there too. Spread it around. And of course, to make them romantic, I have a heart-shaped cookie cutter. So that's what we're going to use. So let me get my cookie dough out. Like I said, it's going to be pretty thick consistency. So just kind of toss it out on your board there. And I'm going to pat it again. Little cocoa in there, a bit more on my rolling pin, and just roll them out. And they roll out very easily. Now I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees. All right, I have it rolled out. On my cookie sheet, I have sprayed some nonstick cooking spray to help them not stick. So just take your little cookie cutter, cut out your little shapes. And this recipe will make almost 3 dozen cookies of this size. So you'll have lots of goody red velvet cookies to eat. And that's pretty much all there is to it. You put them on your cookie sheet, put them in the oven, let them bake for about 10 to 12 minutes. They're gonna be a crispy cookie. All right, so I have them all cut out, and I'm just gonna take a little spatula and lift them up carefully because you don't wanna lose their shape, and lay them on your cookie sheet. Let me bring that up. And they won't really like spread out and run into each other, so you don't have to make sure that they're that far apart from one another. And like I said, put them in a 350 degree oven. Let them bake for about 10 to 12 minutes, and they will come out very crispy. They're a crispy cookie. So I'm gonna keep doing this, clean up, and then I will show you how we're gonna decorate. Well, I have cleaned up my huge mess, and now I'm going to show you some fun little ways that you can decorate your heart-shaped red velvet cookies. Now, I have some have been cooled here and decorated, and all you do, easy, I take a can of the cream cheese frosting already prepared, put it in a resealable little plastic bag, cut a little hole in the tip, and use that as my icing bag. There are many different things you can do with it, and the reason I use cream cheese is because normally with a red velvet cake, the frosting is normally a cream cheese frosting. And here in the South, we also like to put pecans in our icing as well, and it is so good. So for one of my little cookies, I made a little sandwich, and I put pecans in my frosting and sandwiched the 2 cookies together. This happens to be my husband's favorite way. This one is just with frosting only. But I've done a few little squiggly lines and tried to do a little arrow like a Cupid, but it's very simple. Like I said, take your little plastic bag with your little tip, and you can just do whatever little design you want to across your cookies, and that just gives it a little extra sweetness to your red velvet cookies. See how easy this is? And there you go, you have a pretty little cookie. Would also be a nice little present to give to someone. And I'm gonna go grab something out of the freezer to show you one more way. This makes a beautiful presentation. Just good vanilla ice cream and one of my cookies sandwiched in there, and there you go. You have a wonderful treat to give for your romantic rendezvous dinner, or to that special someone that means so much to you. Well, we may be done with our cookies, but we're not completely done with all the desserts and sweets, because when we come back, I have a sinfully rich chocolate martini to make for you. You don't want to miss it.
To find out more about Tasty Traditions and to get all the great recipes, visit our website at tastytraditions.tv.
Well, now we are really going to add some zing to this meal today, and that is because we're going to be making chocolate martinis. Now, this is so rich and so good. You're gonna love it. Okay, but first, before I make it, I wanna show you how you can decorate your martini glass, and this is really, really simple. Take your glass, and in this plate right here, I have poured a little bit of my vodka. You could use water if you wanted to, but you're just going to dip your glass into it so you can get the rim nice and wet. And in this plate, I have ground up a really good quality chocolate candy bar and got it almost to like a powder consistency. And that's what we're gonna dip in next. So just take it and just dip it into your chocolate. Maybe swirl it around a little bit. Make sure you get it all around the edges. And there you go. You have a really pretty rim to go around. And when you're drinking it, you get a little bit more chocolate too, because you can never have enough chocolate. All right, so let's make our martini now. Let me put this aside. I use a martini shaker, but of course you could use a pitcher as well. You just want to put some ice in it. I've got ice about 3/4 of the way into my shaker here. And I have a little measuring tool. This side is about 1.5 ounces, and this is about 1 ounce on this end. So for our chocolate martini, you're going to need some chocolate liqueur, and you're going to need about 1.5 ounces of that. So go ahead and pour a little bit in there. See how dark that is? Oh, that's so good. And we're gonna need about 1.5 ounces of some creme de coco. It's another chocolate liqueur. And this comes clear or dark, and I chose the dark today. And then your vodka, another 1.5 ounces of vodka. And you could also use flavored vodkas like vanilla, and this would be nice as well. And to make it a little creamier, we're gonna use some half and half, about 1 ounce of that. Pour that into your shaker. And that's all you do. Put your lid on it, make sure it's securely on. I take my towel, wrap it up. I'm gonna give it quite a few shakes, and you'll feel the container getting really icy cold. Okay, that looks good. You can even see how cold it is on the outside. And I also keep my vodka in the freezer too, and that'll keep it, your drink nice and cold as well. Just take off the top portion. And I kind of make sure I hold it so in case this part slips off. And just pour your drink into, see, look, it's all chocolatey. Oh, it's so good. And there you have a beautiful cocktail. Now, you could also add a little more garnish. I have ground up some white chocolate, and you can also sprinkle that on the top as well. And there you have a lovely festive cocktail for your romantic rendezvous dinner. Very good. Well, unfortunately, we are all out of time for today, but I do hope that you will try these recipes. Our wonderful sauteed salmon in that beautiful buttery wine sauce. And don't forget the orzo pasta, how buttery and nutty and lemony that was, along with our delicious asparagus. And you've got to make the little red velvet cookies. You can make those any time of the year. And our sinfully rich chocolate martini. Now remember, you can get these recipes on our website at tastytraditions.tv. Until next time, cheers everybody.